Today I've just prepared a very short number of slides to talk about the palm oil industry, things that are closest to your heart and my heart, and things I think also are very familiar to you, talking about the next decade. And it's very appropriate that we talk about next decade, because we know in the implantation industry now that many of our colleagues, or those who have gone before us, or those who have retired but still semi-active, are really the people who have built up the palm oil industry. And we have a big problem now in terms of succession, in terms of finding people who are going to take us to the next level, to continue our dominancy in this industry. So, the last 50 years, we can say that we have a dominant leadership in almost every aspect of the palm oil industry. In fact, I think the build-up of the palm oil industry, the real speed was really in the 80s, the 90s, and the 2000s, in which I think we have built up a very good knowledge and highly respected throughout the world in terms of management, in terms of R&D expertise, in terms of agronomy, breeding, marketing, downstream activities, whole gist of it. So this is something that has happened over the last decade. And you can see from this chart, which is all too familiar with you, the rapid rise in the Malaysian palm oil production in the 80s to the 2010, really the last 20, 30 years, there have been very rapid increase. And of course, we've been very, very fortunate because the last 5 to 6 years, we have seen sustained prices, very profitable prices of the palm oil industry that was never experienced in the first 20 years, say 80s to the 2000, it wasn't experienced. It's only in the last 5, 6 years that everybody has been talking about palm oil and how profitable we are. But as you all know, things cannot last, good things cannot last forever. You know, there could be some situation in the future that will bring the prices down. So I guess the best is for us to be prepared. Challenges in the industry, all of you know that we have only 4 tons of oil per hectare average. Everybody knows that we can do 6 to 8 tons oil, but it's not been done. It's not been done, I think maybe with the exception of IOI. So there's a long way for the industry to really to follow. We have talked about the retirement succession issue, loss of personnel, I think, to Indonesia. Everyone is also very tight for good people because of the industry expanded so much. We have a very high dependency of foreign workers, always the lower problem. We have low productivity versus other crops. When I was in Australia, I went to a wheat farm, 10,000 acres of wheat farm. 3 people worked in the wheat farm, you know, and I was really amazed. This was one of the, KLK has a wheat farm, so I went to see the wheat farm. And there were only 3 people working full-time, you know, running 10,000 acres. How did we get to that stage? I think that's something the industry got to contemplate. When we expand overseas, like Indonesia or Africa, all those things, we all of us have a different set of problems. We have cultural problems, we have social, environmental problems. So it's a new challenge to the whole industry. And I think the last thing is something that we got to very take cognizance of, the rising wages. Don't get us wrong, I think most of us are actually very happy when our workers can earn more. But as long as they are linked to productivity, and at the same time also, we are also very happy to raise the base to a reasonable level. But I guess the pressure that is going to force upon our country is not so much by our union here, but I think it's by Indonesia. As you can see in Riau, in Indonesia, there's a mandatory wage increase every year. In Riau is one of the more reasonable regions where you have got increases of 9, 10% every year. So the people are conditioned to this increase now in Indonesia. If anything less than that, there will be riots in Indonesia. And Indonesia has got 33 provinces. Every governor set the increase in wages. So there's a lot of competition between the governors for this increase in wages. I think recently the governor of West Java set a wage increase of 25%, throwing a lot of hue and cry in the region. But notwithstanding that, I think if you look at Indonesian wages, the basic is only a portion of the wages. We did a rough calculation of the wages that today we are paying in Riau. We take all the benefits, including the 13-month salary, including the bonus, including rice allowance, all those things. They are already $700 ringgit, the minimum basic. And every year you can expect some increase of 10%, although the increase is only in the basic and not in the fringe benefit, but still is quite substantial. So I think that one more thing that we always worry us at the back of the industry is this bud rot disease. What if the bud rot disease comes to Malaysia? I think the whole industry will going to have a lot of problems, as in Colombia and some of the other things. So these are some of the things that keep us awake at night, and hopefully will also stimulate us to give us some urgency to put more and more R&D to resolve some of this issue. I think what the industry now is to have much more aggressive R&D. I just mentioned a few points here in terms of the R&D. We know that the fertilizer cost is about 1/3 of our, is about 30% of total cost. I think we should be embarking on the aim to reduce our fertilizer by at least 1/3, which means reducing our cost of production by 10% to offset this. I think it's very possible because all the research in the past 50 years, most of the research have been talking about the fertilizer rates, the nutritional imbalance, and all those things. Very little has been done to understand the root rhizosphere, the soil bacteria in the ground, the issues like biochars, and using of milk products. Milk products, I think we're using a bit, but can we increase? I think it's very possible if we understand the soil bacteria, if we understand that, if we understand the root utilization of the nutrients, uptake of the nutrients, if we really put an effort. And this will have a big impact. In fact, I think in the United States now, one of the greatest problems is in the Mississippi River, where a lot of the nitrogen fertilizer and other fertilizer have been washed into the Mississippi River, and there are now huge area dead zone in the river now. So that's a big problem for the United States farmers. So I think we need to really enhance our research on this fertilizer. The one thing is also the traditional way of recognizing the deficiency is a very slow process. You take foliar, you do observation. Agronomist comes only maybe once, most twice a year. You really do not capture the deficiency in specific sites and specific soils. So we got to migrate to using satellite image, using drones, helicopter drones, using the low-flying drones plane, just to capture imaging of the palm and the palm color. So I think this will be something that will be used more and more in the industry in the next 10 years or so that we can quickly respond to the poor yielding areas of our field. One thing, of course, breeding is always a continuous thing. We now have some molecular knowledge, some molecular tools. We have cloning. We have got to use this thing very much faster to breed the desirable traits like maybe long stalks, oil content, oil composition in the fruits, so and non-dehiscent ripe loose fruits, so that our workers don't have to pick up the loose fruits, so many of the loose fruits in the field. So a lot of this is going to take some long term. But I think also breeding for Ganoderma is also a very big issue. It's a big problem for us. And also Ganoderma has been associated with some of the soil bacteria, and I think we need to do much more research on that. One of the things that we've been trying to do is to make to make the field work and operations easier. So within KLK, we use this barcode, we call it barcode e-check row system. And I'll just show you a little bit of this. I hope I know how to play this. Yeah? Can someone help? Very short. Just play a short video. No, next one, play the video. This is a bunch counter using the barcode, counting the bunches, so they immediately get recorded into the check row system. And using this barcode, I think they don't have to calculate the check row for the particular harvesters and all those things. And it also leads to very good supervision tools, because the managers will use a similar barcode and do part checking of this system. So immediately the data is downloaded at the end of the day into the check row system, and the calculation is all done by the check row. So using system like this, we need to do more of this so that the management can be assisted, so that they will spend more time in the field, and there will be a proper check and balance in checking the productivity of the harvesters or the workers in the field. So the other thing is about our label, and this has to do with outsourcing specialized work and reducing the worker productivity. I think the MPOB has done very good work with the Chantas, and we have implemented this quite a bit in the KLK system. Just taking this area, in Peninsula, we have identified that about 33% of mature area can be used for the Chantas. And I think using the Chantas, on the average, gives us about 30% productivity increase. So I think there's not going to be a single solution to reduce our worker, but it's going to be a lot of systems like this. Little by little, when you add up, we can reduce our worker ratio, which is very necessary because we are now highly dependent on that. I think you will be insufficient. I just want to finish off by talking about the management in the plantation thing. It's very different nowadays because formerly we're European managers. Now we've got local managers, but we've got foreign workers. So it's totally changed now. And the task of the manager is very complex. The labor laws, we got environmental and all those things. So managers need to be well trained nowadays. But I think we need to get back to the basic, like Professor Machai has said. I think what he has trained is to train a lot of character in his education system. And I think the plantation industry, when we recruit people, we have got to make sure that we recruit for the character. Because I remember my father used to say, honesty, hard work, integrity. He used to repeat this word, which on reflection actually it means character. Competence you can train, but character you can't train. So I think we need a culture in our organization to enhance this culture of the organization, of the character of the people. Especially nowadays, temptation is so much, in the Malaysian atmosphere. As they say, get the right team on the bus. I think those of us who have been in the plantation industry for some time, we lament that the people that we get now are very different from that in the past. Back in the agricultural schools way then, they teach us in all discipline. Now we are getting people from all sort of discipline, but they are not jack of all trades. They know something about a very functional field, but they do not know about the other field. So we need to teach them a lot of other knowledge, besides knowledge, a lot of common sense, a lot of all those things. And we need to do much more on the basic plantation management course and solid agronomy and all those things. So I think most of us in the plantation industry, we have our own training school. But now I think we need to focus more and more on this, to bring all the people, our people together, to give them competency in, say, botany, in soil science, in different type of aspect, in human relationship. We need to bring them and train them. Because we all know the quality of education is a very problematic area for not just for our industry, but for the whole country. So we need to do something about it. And I think to do something about it, we need to make use of our very experienced planters, the researchers. We still got a little bit of time, 5 to 10 years, to make use of the transition talent. So it's the hope that many of us in the industry will use experience of the past leaders who have been transformed, who have led our industry to its present stage. And I'm sure those leaders will unselfishly give their contribution back to the industry. So I think, thank you very much. I think these are the things that